Good evening. Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. It's been a long time since we've gotten to come up on here and talk about a Braves win. We did. And the highlight of that Braves win is none other than Chris Sale, who is squarely back in the conversation for the National League Cy Young Award. I mean, as good as Paul Skeens has been recently, and he's done it for the entire year while Chris Sale had that slow start. But if you look at what they've been over the last couple of months, like you could even say Chris Sale has been the better pitcher of the two. And frankly, if you go all the way back to last year, outside of maybe Scooball out there in Detroit, there hasn't been a better pitcher in baseball. I mean, we're talking about the National League Cy Young Award winner. We're talking about the National League Triple Crown winner. And right now, he honestly, and you tell me what you think and drop it in the comments, whatever, he looks better. Like, he's looked better over this. I know it's only an 8-game sample size, but like the fastball velocity hasn't just gotten back up to par. It's faster, and he's throwing it harder when he needs to. And his strikeouts per 9 innings is up to 12 when it was 11.4 last year, and that's after a slow start. So he has been really, really maybe the best we've seen him in a Braves uniform over these last couple of months.
A slow start is not.
Yeah.
I mean, he was bad. I mean, what do you have, a 6.6 ERA or something like that through 4, 5, 6 starts to begin the year? That's bad. I mean, that's not just a slow start. And it is so cool to watch him. I talked about it on Twitter, how cool it is to watch him sit 95, and sit maybe a little bit 96. And then you've got 2 outs and runners are on second and third or whatever the situation may be. And he reaches back and hits 99, 98. That is so cool to me that somebody like that knows, he's got it in his bag, doesn't need it all the time. And that's something I think every young pitcher should take away from Chris Sale. And a lot of guys do that. This isn't, just singular to Chris Sale, because I think more than anything, that is extending not only his short-term shelf life, but long-term shelf life, where it's like, I mean, I don't want to say a guy's only got so many pitches in his arm, but honestly, it feels like that nowadays. We're like, it's a ticking time bomb. You've only got so many pitches. Sure, you might not want to throw, looking at Spencer Schwellenbach in particular, you might not want to throw, the hardest pitches you've ever thrown in your entire life in one single game. While it is impressive and very cool, I think that, tempering back, you don't need to go 100 miles an hour every single pitch. And while you can, and it's cool, I just think the risk versus the reward is not there, especially when you've got guys like Sale and Schwellenbach who got 4, 5, and Schwellenbach in some cases 6 picks mixes, that it's like, you don't need that. And that's what's so impressive about that to Chris Sale for me, is like, the throttle is not all the way down with him all start long. And he just, he floats through games effortlessly.
Yeah,
that's what's so
I don't know what Spencer Schwellenbach, it doesn't ever seem like Spencer Schwellenbach is forcing the issue. I mean, the guy, I know he started to hit 99 and 100 more recently, but I just think that might be just him getting stronger. I mean, you talk about a guy that came up through this system, and we talk about it all the time. I mean, before he had gotten to the majors, he didn't have 150 endings of minor league baseball under his belt. He dealt with Tommy John surgery. Thankfully, he already has that under the way, so you hope it's not something that you deal with in the future. But he just seems like he's a young arm that's really just starting to find his footing and continue to get stronger. But Chris Sale, it has been unbelievable. And then you saw Ronald Acuna with the home run. I mean, those two guys, as bad as the Braves have been, and maybe they continue to be this bad, maybe they turn it around, but no matter what, if you're just a baseball fan, they give you a reason to tune in every single night, because I'll watch Ronald Acuna hit the ball. I mean, it's just, there's certain guys where, and listen, over 162 games, you're not going to be peeled into every single game. There's going to be moments where, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to do something, or maybe I need to go do something. Oh, Ronald Acuna's up. Yeah. Let me stay and watch that at bat. And him, Drake Baldwin, Chris Sale, Spencer Schwellenbach, they're guys that no matter what I'm doing, no matter if I'm at a wedding, like, I'm going to be watching Ronald Acuna's return game. I was literally at a wedding for that return game. And yes, guess what I was doing? I was on my phone watching Ronald Acuna Jr. hit, because I wasn't going to miss that. Those are the kind of guys that, even though, and it's amazing because they're literally the best at their respective positions, or one of the best, and they're unbolievable talents, which is why you look at this Braves record and you're like, how the hell are we struggling this bad? Because when you have those guys,
even the talent behind them. And I think, I want to talk about some individuals who are, getting hotter at the right time. But like, that's what's so unexplainable, is like, we aren't the White Sox. Like, we aren't the Rockies, and I know they're far behind us, but like the Marlins, coming into yesterday's game, we were just 2.5 games better than them. We are so far and away better than them, obviously on paper, but the games would say that we're not that much better. But I think everybody, even Marlins fans, would be like, what the hell's going on with them? They're closer to us than the Phillies and Mets. Like, that's unbelievable. And that's what's so mind-boggling. But to Ronald Acuna specifically, I did want to I think he can hit 60 home runs in a season. And obviously wear and tear on the body, I think is really going to, like less wear and tear. You could see it in the field. He is not going 100% in the field. I'm going for that 100%. He's not running his hardest. And I think the Braves told him, hey, sacrifice letting a fly ball drop for your knee, bud. And obviously on the base pass, I think the same thing. He's not stealing. And I think that the combination of that and the fact that his power has not even dropped one iota. In fact, I think you could argue it's gotten better. The guy's averaging 100 miles per hour off the bat. That's unheard of. It's 99th percentile in baseball. He can hit 60 home runs. He can hit 60 home runs in his sleep. He is so wickedly talented. And I know Aaron Judge is in a category of his own. He's a freak in nature. Aaron Jones, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but Aaron Judge is he's a linebacker. Ronald Acuna Jr. is 6
more
foot.
like a left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. is 6 foot, 185, 190 pounds. I mean, what he can do pound for pound. Even Ohtani is a much, much bigger human being.
Well, they were saying
Acuna Jr. Pound for pound, there is not somebody who is more powerful than Ronald Acuna Jr.
They were saying, I believe it was Walt Weiss who had played with Mark McGwire. This was on the broadcast yesterday, talking about batting practice and how Ronald Acuna had hit one over the Miller Light sign. I've never been to the Brewer Stadium, but it was just, a 500-foot homer. And he's like, he played with Mark McGwire. He's like, that's the only guy I could see him there. But then he also followed it up with, as terms of opposite field power, he's never seen someone like Ronald Acuna Jr. And you mentioned Aaron Judge and you mentioned Shohei Ohtani. Those are about the only guys. James Wood is actually someone in terms of opposite field power. But and then you saw it a couple innings later, he hits an opposite field homer, 404 feet. But there was also a moment on the broadcast where they brought up early in the game where they talked about, I believe it was over 100-mile-per-hour batted balls, and the Braves, despite coming into the game, losing their last 5 games, led the league in all baseball, which is just another sign of just how crazy this stretch has been. But you saw more of that yesterday, and you saw 3 hits from Austin Riley. You saw a home run from Matt Olsen, a home run from Ronald Acuna, a couple hits from Ozzie Albies, a couple hit from Mike Harris, and you just hope, those are signs, because Matt Olsen has been hot for a little bit. Austin Riley, the way he was driving it to the opposite field gap, that is what you see when he starts to get hot. Ozzie Albies now for 25 games has been really, really damn good. And Mike Harris over the last week or two has been much better. So you just hope. I know it's only one win, but the last 6-7 games, and sometimes in Matt Olsen's case, the last 20 games, have been encouraging from an offensive perspective, that if they can get a little luck to go their way, they might actually be able to go on one of those runs that we're used to seeing from this team.
I'll go off right now. Those were the guys I was going to go into, and I'll dig into it a little deeper. Going down the list, Matt Olsen, 1,000 OPS over his last 24-ish games. That's what we're expecting from Matt Olsen. And that's what, people bag on me where I go, how could I say Matt Olsen is part of the problem? I'm saying that because I have such high expectations for him. I expect him to be 2021, 2023 Matt Olsen. I don't expect what he did last year. I think that was more of an anomaly than 2021 and 2023, where he's got an OPS 40, 45, sometimes 50% above league average. And you look at all of the nerd metrics about hard hit balls and everything like that, and Matt Olsen is having as good of a year as he has ever had. Now, that's not directly reflected in his OPS and his home runs and everything like that. But like you said, he's been on a tear. These last 24-ish games, 25-ish games, 1,000 OPS, 1,000 plus OPS. he is a guy who can hit 15 home runs in the span of 30 games and not even blink twice. And that's what we're expecting. You said Ozzie Albies. Ozzie Albies is on a 24-game hit streak. It just so happens I'm going to do something on it. And it's kind of just funny, but I think it should, it's funny because what else are we going to talk about? We're in such misery. Let's laugh at something. It directly coincides with the moment that Ronald Acuna Jr. began his rehab stint. And then he's been even better since Ronald Acuna Jr. has returned to the Braves. He's got a WRC plus around 30% higher than league average in those 24 games. You mentioned Mike Harris. His is a little less, in terms of a span. It's about, 10-ish games. But again, those are the guys. And Austin Riley, he is not, heating up quite like Matt Olsen. But again, he is just right there with Matt Olsen in terms of he's a guy who can hit 12 home runs in a span of 30 games without even blinking. So those are the final pieces of the puzzle that we kind of need to kind of go on one of these instead of losing, 13 out of 17. We win 13
Well,
out of 17.
the issue has been that even though all these guys are hot, they're doing it at different moments.
Right.
And yesterday we saw everyone do it. I mean, everyone
in
had
one inning, Acuna hit a home run, Riley doubled, Olsen home run. I was like, it's 2023.
Yeah. I mean, it's been so long since we've seen that. There is one guy on the negative aspect of things. I want to talk about it. We'll do that after the break. Alex, it was not long ago that Alex Verdugo was a godsend for the team. He was a catalyst when he came up, and all of a sudden the Braves were playing their best baseball of the season. But he has been horrid. And anyone who watched the game last night knows exactly what I'm talking about in these specific situations. Both times he came up with runners in scoring position, and both times he took fastballs right down the middle. He is up there guessing. And if you go look at his last 30 games, he's hitting around the Mendoza line. He hasn't hit a home run since he's been called up. He has a below 500 OPS. And frankly, not only is he doing this, he's not a good base runner. He's not a good fielder. There's absolutely nothing that this guy's bringing to the table. And he is actually hurting Eli White's offense if you look at these splits, which are hard to ignore because Eli White has been playing against lefties. He has a sub 500 OPS against lefties. He has a greater than 800 OPS against righties. Yesterday, he gets a bat against a right-handed pitcher. What does he do, Alex? He hits the ball out of the park. It was a huge hit. I mean, we're up 3-1, but right now that feels like it. That doesn't even feel like a winnable game right now, especially with Raisel Iglesias and those. So a huge hit to finally, I think all of Braves country just let out a sigh of relief. It's like, okay, I'm not going to say we can't blow it because we've seen what happened, but it does feel like we're finally going to get a win. He does that against a right-handed pitcher. I think I'm just going out on a limb here. You never really know with Brian Snitker. He's always willing to give his guys the benefit of the doubt. But I would be pretty surprised if Eli White isn't the full-time starter moving forward until Jerks and Profar returns.
Yeah, I mean, Verdugo's been atrocious, and he doesn't need to be seeing the lineup. And it's just the uncompetitive at bats. Like in some cases, like even Matt Olsen has been good. Like he's been incredibly unlucky. If you go look at the advanced metrics and all the nerd stats, and that might not be your cup of tea, but even if you use the eye test, you could see. We can all see that Verdugo is just putting up uncompetitive at bats. It's atrocious to watch. And while Eli White isn't, some, tremendous upgrade, he's better on any given night, purely based on base running and fielding than Alex Verdugo, combined with the fact that he is more productive at the plate at times, especially, like you said, in those reverse split situations. But I'm going to turn this conversation into a different aspect completely. Both of them have sucked. Eli White has not been good by any means. He's been better than Verdugo, but he hasn't been good by any means after, bursting onto the scene when we finally got rid of Kelenic and De La Cruz. I am shocked that Braves fans still can't comprehend the fact that even if Jerkson Profar returns and he is league average, 100 OPS plus, 100 WRC plus, in 2024 was that flash in the pan. It was clearly the PED use and we got spurned, whatever. That is still a tremendous upgrade over what Eli White and Alex Verdugo and Jared Kelenic and Brian De La Cruz have given us from the left field position. I mean, and it's not even close. Like we are talking the left field position. I'm getting nerdy. The left field position compared to other left fielders around the league, we have an OPS 45% below the left field average around the league, 45% below. If you just put in a league average guy, which Profar has been, even if you take out the 2024 year, he's been slightly below league average, around 6 to 8%. That's still a 40% upgrade. 40%. That basically, I don't want to say it's going to turn around the whole team by any means, but at least you're getting something from that guy, that left field position. And I don't expect, and you could go, well, Nick Allen's been, we're not expecting anything from Nick Allen. He's just getting roped into this because everybody else sucks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, we talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago that Jurickson Profar has a real opportunity with the way that the team's playing to win everybody back very quickly. And he doesn't have to go out there and be the 2024 version of Jurickson Profar. He just has to not suck. Because you're right. He will be a huge upgrade. I'll even go in a different direction because I mistakenly, painfully went and looked at Ramon Laureano's stats yesterday and was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, we've talked about Griffin Canning, and how the Atlanta Braves didn't tender him a $5 million contract and everything he's done with the Mets. And it makes it sting even worse that he's doing it with the New York Mets. But Ramon Laureano was owed $6 million projected in arbitration. The Braves parted ways. They ended up, obviously, the Jurickson Profar thing really screwed them over. They thought they had a starting left fielder, but they were with Brian De La Cruz and Jared Kelenic, who I could have told you before the season, Ramon Laureano was a better starting option.
Brian De La Cruz was literally the worst player in baseball this year. Literally.
I could have told you before the season, Ramon Laureano was a better option than that. And he has a 139 OPS plus and an 845 OPS. I mean,
at least he's doing it for the Orioles and not.
Yeah, but at least he's not doing it for the Mets.
Right.
But it is just that one. Those are a couple gut punches because they were in the organization.
And you know what's more annoying about that conversation is I see people going, well, when we got Griffin Canning, everybody was like shitting on him, and everybody was, this guy sucks. This guy sucks. And granted, he did have he was a bad pitcher, but guess what? The Angels cannot develop a pitcher to save their lives. And guess who we were like, we can keep Griffin Canning in camp and give him a real shot of competing for one of those final roles in the rotation. And we gave it to Ian Anderson. That is essentially, and obviously we know how spring training played out where A.J. Smith-Shawver got the call instead of Ian Anderson. But A.J. Smith-Shawver very well could have just started in AAA Gwinnett, and Griffin Canning maybe would have shown the Braves in spring training like, oh, this guy might be worth hanging on to for just $5 million instead of Ian Anderson. Like, that was the equivalent of like, well, we got A.J. Smith-Shawver and we got Ian Anderson. We'll give one of those guys a crack. We don't really have room for Ian Anderson. That is mind-boggling.
Yeah, I actually got an exact comment from that when I wrote about that. Right. Go check it out on SportsTalkATL. It's like, oh, this is armchair G. And those guys would have made the roster. I'm like, Ramon Laureano started over Jared Kelenic, and they knew about the Jurickson Profar thing before he actually got suspended. That's why they signed Alex Verdugo. Ramon Laureano is a better option than both of them, and he's a way better option than Brian De La Cruz. And Griffin Canning would have brought into camp and made the roster without a doubt. A.J. Smith-Shawver was optioned after a second start. Now, obviously, he came back up and he did good things, but with Ronaldo Lopez going down and Spencer Strider not necessarily, dealing with a hand, Griffin Canning would have been started the season here, and he would have never stopped starting the season here. So, in hindsight, yes, we can all look at these deals and say, oh, we didn't really love Griffin Canning. Oh, why would you love Griffin Canning? But we are fans, and this is our job is to be armchair GMs. Yeah. Like people who say social media GMs, it's like this is exactly what we're supposed to do. This is what fans are supposed to do. This is what people in our position are supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be criticizing or praising the moves that we made because they are in the position to make them. They are making millions of dollars. It's the same reason when I say Nick Allen sucks. Well, yeah, I couldn't play shortstop. Like, what do we talk? But I can still say he shouldn't be.
Guess what? Nick Allen couldn't do this.
Yeah.
He couldn't do this every single day.
It's just, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, yes, you're going to be critical of people in their positions. Like, that's literally the job. That is the name of the job. It's the name of the show. Criticize, praise, comment. Like, we are all social media armchairs, and it's okay for us to be wrong. It's not okay for them to be wrong because they get paid. They get paid to do it. We got to go to break. We got more to discuss after. It's unfortunately a headline. Shouldn't be a headline. Everyone should have just expected it. But Kirk Cousins has reported to mandatory minicamp after missing voluntary OTAs. And this should come as absolutely no shock because what does Kirk Cousins love? He loves money. And he's going to miss money if he doesn't show up. And I think another...
So Jalen Ramsey and he is not getting fined. I didn't know you could if the Falcons agreed.
Yeah, they don't have to.
So, I mean, is that crazy? I mean, this is mini camp. It's not training camp, and even training camp, Kirk knows the playbook. If he needs to play, he knows the playbook. Maybe a little tweak in here from Zach Robinson, but that's your job. You're the boy genius. Quite frankly, we're going to talk about it. It's a big nothing burger, but even still, like, let's not even give the media a chance. Although the Atlanta media is a bunch of soft fruitcakes that, like, even give them a chance except for Mark Zeno, to bring controversy into the equation. Like Jalen Ramsey and the Miami Dolphins, if you don't know, they're trying to work out a trade for Ramsey. He is not going to mandatory minicamp, but it's an excused absence, so he's not getting fined.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, though, and you heard it from Raheem Morris at his press conference today, is that there is, even though there's this outside noise and everyone loves talking about it and people are going to try to divide a wedge into the Atlanta Falcons, there's no doubt that's what you know what we just talked about? That's their job. That is literally their job, to create headlines and stuff like that. It is a nothing burger because despite Falcons fans believing that Kirk Cousins is this evil genius that has this big elaborate plan to take over the starting job in Atlanta, he realizes his role. He's going to be a professional. He's going to give Michael Penix as much advice as humanly possible to help him succeed, because that's who he's been his entire career. And Raheem Morris recognizes that. And frankly, I don't think Penix and Cousins and the Falcons in the building are really distracted by the noise. I think everybody understands their jobs. And if that is the case, and you're not worried about Michael Penix looking over his shoulder because you made it very clear what everyone's role is, Kirk Cousins is a valuable guy to have in the building to mentor him and to learn from. And listen, I know Kirk hates it. I mean, there's probably nothing he despises more than sitting there watching. But he probably thinks he's better than Penix. Why wouldn't he? He's been in the league and had a ton of success that Penix hopes and dreams.
I mean, if he's fully healthy, I think you have an argument.
Yeah,
he might be.
Yeah, and maybe he's playing. Maybe he's practicing better. But he also understands the nature of the business and what's to come. And he's going to be a professional about it. And I just think the fact that people have made up this Kirk Cousins villain arc has always been hilarious to me, because he cares about two things, three things: God. money, God, family, and playing football. And he would love to be starting out there, but he's not going to go out there and try to connive some evil plan to bring down the Falcons for what's happened.
If he was doing actions that were detrimental to the team, the Falcons would have legal grounds to suspend him, to get him out, to get out of the contract, whatever. Like, I promise, if he was doing the things that you've cooked up in your head, the Falcons would have already taken action to protect the Falcons. They have no reason to protect Kirk Cousins whatsoever. They are protecting the Atlanta Falcons, and that is it. And so this whole bullcrap about how Kirk Cousins lied and he owes the Falcons more about the injuries is like, ask yourself, what would you do? This team doesn't owe you anything. They, in fact, probably want, if everything works out, you just leave in general. They don't want you here. So you are trying to protect your well-being, your livelihood, what could possibly be your last chance to be a starter in this league. And everybody's going to do that. Every single person's going to do that. And then he comes off and he goes and attends the voluntary workouts earlier in the summer or earlier in the offseason. And everybody's going, oh, he's here to stir the pot. He's here to really. If he was here to do that and it was clearly detrimental to the team, I guarantee you the Falcons have grounds to suspend him, to do whatever they want to do. That is how the NFL works. If Terrell Owens is the perfect example of when the Eagles were like, dude, go home. You're literally being a problem. Go home. And they were allowed to do that. They forced him to go home. He couldn't be at the practice or at the facility. So I don't understand this big conspiracy theory that Kirk Cousins is some evil genius. And quite frankly, I agree with you 100%. If you're the Atlanta Falcons and you're already comfortable with the money, he is better in the building than out of the building.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's switch to Hawks coming up after the break. Trey Young, could he potentially take less than a max contract in his next deal? At the top of the list of the Atlanta Hawks, things to do this offseason, Trae Young, getting him signed to an extension or moving him. I mean, if that's the direction that they decide to go, I think most people believe that he is going to stay in Atlanta because, frankly, I don't know if there's an obvious situation where Trae Young is going like to a team where they could offer us anything where a trade would even work out. Like, I just don't see many of those out there. And Zach Lowe brought this up on his latest podcast that he wants Trey Young to stay in Atlanta. And he even mentioned the possibility of the Hawks trying to create some sort of deal where it wouldn't be a max contract. It would be a little bit less, and it wouldn't have these rising to 60, $70 million like you see with guys like Jaylen Brown. And I just got to thinking, like, is that even something that could potentially be on the table? Like, would he get a max contract from, I mean, like, would he get a max contract from anybody else in the league? I assume so, but would it be somewhere that he wanted to go? Because if you look around the league at the point guard situation, it's a loaded position. I mean, everybody seemingly has a point guard that can give you 25, 30 points or 20 and close to 10 assists. Like, the point guard position is absolutely loaded. So I just thought it was from a guy that's very well respected. I mean, Zach Lowe's as plugged in and as well respected as any NBA talking head, NBA insider, whatever you want to call him in the league. So I thought it was interesting that he brought up even that possibility. And then you think about it from Trae Young's perspective, he's going to make a crap ton of money no matter what. I mean, he'll make close to $1 billion over the course of his career. And, he wants to win. And we know the wrestlers have been kind of cheap. If it were to help them get better, and I don't know if it would, but if it would that be something that he's open to? Because we've obviously seen that in other sports. It's not necessarily something that happens in the NBA very often.
I think you would, if it were to happen, which I do not think it would happen. I think if it were to happen, you'd have to come to him with a plan. You have to come to him with you do this for A, we're going to do this for you for B. Meaning we have, we have, I don't want to pull a name out of thin air to make it, but like KD's coming. We can't necessarily afford him. You take a pay cut, or Giannis, so to speak, where, you take a pay cut or less of a slight pay cut. And that way we can fit his max contract also under the books and kind of in our budget. And that's like, you can't just go to Trey Young and then be like, take a pay cut. We don't really have a plan what we're going to do with the money. You have to show him why he's taking the pay cut, or else what's the point in him? Like, he could just get spurned. And quite frankly, that's what's come to be expected from this ownership group, is like, they will cut dollars whenever they can. They're not going to, and that's a good reason why Trey Young shouldn't do it, because this team has shown no willingness. Like, when KD joined the Warriors, it wasn't like the Warriors were trying to stay under the luxury tax. They already had several max contracts already on the books. They couldn't afford more. Like, that is kind of where it's like, if the wrestlers were already in the luxury tax and were paying all of these, tax bills, you could see it from Trey Young's perspective. But like, they are doing everything in their possible power to not pay any luxury tax at all. Yeah. So I don't know why he would do the team a favor when the team has shown no willingness to do him a favor.
Yeah, and it might not work out where it really even results. Like, it might just be ending up that even if they do bring in guys, that Trey Young is just giving dollars back to ownership, and they're really not going to be able to bolster the roster because of the way that the aprons and everything like that work. But you do bring up an interesting aspect in terms of the timing that, he is under contract for this season, and you can go out there and prove that you're willing to go in the tax, prove that you're willing to make these moves, and then, make those moves and say, hey, by the way, because we made these moves, we need you to take a few less dollars here. Like, it's impossible to forget.
And if those moves result in a championship run, not necessarily winning a championship, but getting close, getting back to the conference finals or something, that might be just enough to prove for Young to be like, okay, I want to win more than I want that extra $15 million per year.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, frankly, I don't think anyone's even brought up that idea.
Has anyone done it?
It just seems like everyone just goes and gets max contracts. Like, the max contracts feel like they're handed out to everybody, left and right. And I think it'll become a little less popular given that now the new nature of the salary cap. You can't just go out there and have 3 or 4 guys. Like, you really need to focus on team building, or else you're going to end up with a couple of stars and a bunch of crappy players, and you're going to be a first round knockout and really have nothing left to do. I mean, kind of like the Milwaukee Bucks. So you saw how that could end up negatively, but I did think it was an interesting comment. We got to go to break. We got more to talk about after the break. The U.S. Open is set to take place this week at Oakmont, which has just, it is unbelievable what the kind of hype that's coming out in terms of the terror that this course is expected to bring. And you got some golfers that like to complain about it, because a lot of golfers like to complain and they want their perfect weather, and they want their nicely trimmed fairways, and they want their nice lies in the rough, and they want their perfect greens that are very easy to putt on.
Me too.
And then you got some guys like Xander Schauffele, who I think said it perfectly. He's like, people don't watch the US Open like to watch people go shoot 10 under. Like they literally tune in every year to this tournament to watch us struggle, get frustrated, look like them out there on the golf course. Like that is why. And that's right. He's absolutely right. Like that is what we want. Like I know sometimes it's not fair and it is stupid. If any of us went out there on that golf course, we'd look so dumb it wouldn't even be.
I might shoot 300.
We would look so dumb it wouldn't be funny, but that is what makes it great for us. And it requires a specific types of play. There's a reason there's guys that are very good at winning the US Opens, because they're good tee to green. They don't miss fairways. Sometimes you got a guy like Bryson who's won 2, who he's great tee to green,
sense.
but he's great tee to green, but he has a very good short game that's very underrated. And because he bombs it so long, when he does hit in that rough, he's still able to scramble and make par. So it fits certain golfers. But obviously the story coming into this is Scotty's greatness. He's been unbelievable. He came into the year with a hand injury, started slow, and is just absolutely struck fire. I mean, reminiscent of Tiger Woods. And I say that very hesitantly because I never thought I would say that, but it's the closest thing we've seen to Tiger Woods. We'll see how long he can do this, but it doesn't look like he's slowing anytime soon. He's a huge favorite coming into this week. Yeah. And frankly, when you talk about what fits a US Open, this guy's the best tee to green that we've seen since Tiger. I mean, this guy hits fairways.
Shortest odds in a U.S. Open since I think 08 Woods, or maybe it was 7 Woods. I don't know the exact.
This guy hits fairways and greens like nobody else.
I mean, he's like plus 270, I think I saw, and obviously that depends on what outlet you're looking on. But like, that's crazy for any tournament, let alone this tournament. Let alone with the field that's going to be there. Like, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And these guys aren't in the business of losing money. Like, this isn't, that is meticulously set. So, like, that just goes to show, like you said, he is such a heavy favorite. Another storyline I want to talk about, Rory. How I've been a Rory hater. I never really liked the guy. And then I was even happy for him that he got his career Grand Slam. I really was. I was genuinely happy for him. And then he goes out and he starts sucking. And that's not like something I'm like, ha ha. But then he goes, yeah, motivation is hard after winning the Masters. That might be true, but shut up. Shut up. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like Brooks Koepka going, I'm just not really, into my swing, or like, I'm not obsessed with my swing. It's like, yes, you are. Rory, you are still out there grinding. Yeah. You're just bad. You have just had a string of bad tournaments where the last time we saw him at wherever it was,
RBC,
one of the worst showings I've ever seen of Rory. I mean, it was absolutely atrocious. And then that was after the motivation comments, which just makes it so much worse. Like, no, you're not, dude. You're just playing bad right now. And then obviously Phil going for the career Grand Slam. He had an unbelievable shot over there on Live this past weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Phil's been playing good golf. I don't think he has the game to win at 55 years old at Oakmont, but he has, I think, 5 or 6 second place finishes at the US Open. So he's definitely been a guy at this tournament. But I want to go back to Scotty, because this does, to me, on a course this difficult, I really believe we're going to see something reminiscent of Tiger back in the day, where he won by 12 strokes, where everybody else is out there just like, and Scotty's out there just like, no, I'm going to hit this fairway and then I'm going to hit the green, and man, golf's easy. Like, this is easy. Why isn't everyone? Because he does that better than everyone else. I mean, he hits his fairways and then he never misses greens. Like, his bad shots are 15 foot and his good shots are within 5 feet.
It's so annoying to see him go, and then it's just 15 feet.
Yeah, I mean, those are his bad shots.
I'm jumping and leaping and kissing my partner.
And when you can avoid mistakes and you can keep the ball in play and you can keep the ball on the fairway and keep the ball on the green, and you're also become one of the best putters in the game, which is always one of his struggles, it would not shock me in the slightest if we're looking here and they're predicting the winning score to be +4. If Scotty Scheffler's 10 under,
I thought that was hilarious.
If Scotty Scheffler's 10 under and everyone else is +4.
Whoever said that, I don't remember.
Ben Griffin.
Ben Griffin
playing great golf.
He's like, I'd be happy if I carded a 4, if I went and signed.
And that's what the normal golfers are.
So hilarious. Like, I am so excited for this.
And that's what the normal golfers are thinking.
I hope that doesn't happen. No offense. dominance. Like I do want to.
I
want to obviously.
Carnage.
I want carnage.
I want the winning score to be +4 and you have +7 in it, like going into Sunday.
Yeah. And the cut is like +12.
And you come down to the last 5 holes, and like the guys with 5 shots back have a chance because triple bogeys out there and like a couple birdies down the stretch, and all of a sudden you can win. No, that's what I want. Yeah. But there's something in my gut that just tells me Scotty's going to maneuver this course better than everyone else, and it's going to be one of those things that you can appreciate, where it's just like this kind of like everyone's kind of saying the Tiger thing, but if he really has a moment where he just says, hey, everyone else just shot +4 and I'm -10, like that would really encapsulate like he's arrived at that Tiger Woods level.
Yep.
So we talked about Scotty Scheffler and the potential of him dominating this U.S. Open. But if it's not Scotty, which it very well couldn't be, who would you like to see win this year's U.S. Open?
I think Phil. And I love Phil. I know he's a divisive, figure in golf, to say the least. That might be even sugarcoating it. I like Phil. I've always liked Phil. I think maybe it's the lefty, maybe it's the ridiculous shots that he can come up with, and also the career Grand Slam. And I love it when these old men, when Tiger did it, when he did it at the Masters in 19 or 21,
Phil did it
21. Yeah, it's magical to see some of these old men, come out there and beat a 27-year-old or 28-year-old Scotty Scheffler in the prime of his career. I think it's so entertaining.
Yeah, I think Phil's a great answer. I'd obviously love to see Bryson repeat. Big Bryson DeChambeau fan. John Rahm getting back in the winner's circle.
That would be a great one. That would be a
great story. It was nice to see him be right in the mix with Scotty Scheffler at the PGA Championship. But I'm going to go and this is very un-American of me, but I feel like just the way he handled his defeat at the Masters and the way he handled his defeat at the Open. Rosie, who's been playing great at these majors and really is just a class act. I know he's not American, but I would love to see Justin Rose go out there and compete and finally get another major, because he's been in the mix a ton of times, whether it's Augusta, whether it's the Open, whether it's the U.S. Open. I know he has one major, but he's been playing great golf and he's another older guy that's been around for a long time.
Did Max Homa win that tournament and make it to the field?
No. He lost in a playoff.
That's brutal.
And not only did he lose to a playoff, to make it worse, par 5, he gets on in 2. 3-putt pars to get into the playoff. If he had just 2-putted, he would have made it in there. So,
I was gonna say I'd love Homa to go out there.
It is very odd to see a lot of the names that were out there. I mean, you're talking about the Ricky Fowlers, the Cameron Youngs, the Max Homas, the Zach Johnsons. A lot of
Cam Smith out there.
No, Cam Smith, because he won the Open, I believe is still, but maybe he should be out there, because what we've seen from him since there is definitely.
You want to talk about motivation? I think he's but like unlike Rory, he's out there drinking beer and probably smoking cigarettes on the boat in Aussie land. Like that's a different.
There's a number of guys from LIV. I mean, some of them obviously have taken it seriously when you're talking about Neiman and Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau and even Mickelson. I think he's gotten his good game for what he is. But there's also the Cam Smiths and Dustin Johnsons that don't look like they give an absolute crap about every time they show up for these majors. They're like 15 over.
Cam looks like his belly's getting a little bit bigger every time. His mullet's longer, his belly's bigger.
I can't blame him. That's what they want to do. That's what they do. That wraps up our show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back with you tomorrow.